Hey guys, this is Nick here with another Geeky review. This week I went ahead and went through Streets of Rage 4. This just came out last Thursday, so I spent the weekend kind of playing through it and getting a feel for it, and some more today, just kind of going through, getting a feel for how the game works and how it plays and everything I liked about it and what I didn't like about it, so I could come here and do a review for you guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing I want to go ahead and go into is like the gameplay and the replayability and all that. So the gameplay is your pretty basic brawler style gameplay. Now, if you're new to these, you basically generally have like an attack. Sometimes you have a throw. You usually have a special. Sometimes you'll have supers and things of that nature. Now, this one generally kind of has all the above. It will have your basic attack, which is where you can kind of pop things up and do combos. Now, if you press away and hit the same attack button on it, you can hit somebody who's behind you, either with a sweep or like a back fist or something like that. That gives you some form of control for people that are coming up from behind you while you're attacking one other person to kind of throw them off balance so you don't just get hit and knocked out of your combo or knocked over, which is kind of traditional in a lot of brawler games to have happen. Now, some of the other things that you got in here is you've got your throws. So if you come down from above on somebody or come up from below on somebody, or just get close enough, you can generally kind of grab somebody in a bit of a throw, do a bit of damage, and then you can either throw them in front of you or behind you. A lot of times you can hit another character. Another thing that you have in this game is you have specials. So you can hit the Y button and that will activate like a special move, it being like a flame burst from Blaze or launching an arm out a bit and grabbing somebody to pull them in as Floyd. Or, doing like a flaming guitar riff with Cherry or somebody like that, right? Now, those are great moves that can do a lot of damage. It can really change the tempo of a fight, but they cost you life. So what you have to do in this game is you have to balance your attacking with your normal attacks and your specials in order to make sure that you don't lose too much life and end up getting yourself in trouble. Now, the way you get your life back after you use the specials and you've cut down some of your life is you continue to hit on enemies. That will regain you back a lot of the life that you lost, if not all of it, if you don't get hit. Now, the moment you get hit, while that's been ticked down and in green, it will break off and then you've lost that life. So you have to be cautious and make sure you're aware of what's around you when you start firing these off. Because if you fire off too many in succession and somebody hits you, you're just going to fall over and you're going to die and you're going to wonder what happened. So with that in mind, that's the kind of gameplay that you're looking at in this game. Is you can kind of move around in and out of the environment, up and down and left and right, and kind of shimmy things around. You can use pits to your advantage. You can use explosive barrels to your advantage. People will drop weapons that you can pick up that you can either throw or you can use. If you throw, like say, a crowbar and you hit somebody with it and it bounces back, you can actually catch it again in your hand and you can launch it out again if you want to. All the weapons will eventually break in this game, or they're one-time use weapons, like a grenade or a poison vial or something of that nature, right? So that's kind of your basic gameplay loop inside this kind of game, which is pretty standard for a brawler. Now, this one's really tight and really clean to where you always kind of feel like you have some form of control over your character almost all the time. You never really feel like the game is playing you. You always feel like you have some semblance of control. Now, that control goes a little bit more out the window the higher you bump up the difficulty, because there's just more on the screen for you to have to handle, and it gets harder to maneuver things to your advantage just by sheer numbers, which is what brawlers are known for. Fortunately, as you bump up the difficulty, you still feel like you do the same amount of damage and take the same amount of damage. It's just you've got more enemies to deal with, and sometimes multiples of enemies that you really probably wouldn't want multiples of in the first place because they're just difficult to deal with. But you up the difficulty, so you bought in on that. Now, as far as like replayability with this kind of game, it is kind of short. I finished it on normal in about 3 to 3.5 hours, and I'm not very good at these. So I was very glad that they had an achievement for me going through with a character that I completed it with, doing it with the other characters, that they've got some side areas and other achievements. They have an arcade mode where you have like one set of lives and you have to go through the whole game and beat it that way. So that adds another challenge if you want to go into that. They have a boss rush mode where you can just go through and fight each of the bosses in sequence. They have a battle mode where if you want to just beat up on each other's, the various different characters, and prove who's better. Is it Axel or Blaze, or is it Cherry or Floyd, or none of the above? Maybe it's so-and-so. Then you can do that. And they might have more characters than that. They might have some of the normal NPCs like they did in some of the Double Dragons. I don't know. I didn't have anybody I could fully explore that mode with. So it might be worth your while to check that out. They also have an online co-op mode, so you can play with your friends or randoms online and try to go through the story mode with them as well, which could also be quite a bit of fun. So all that for my money with the achievements and everything like that makes it to where it's a pretty good value for its money, even though it's a little bit on the short side overall as far as a game goes. Now, as far as the art style and the graphics and things like that, do I think it looks good? Do I think it fits and things like that? I really do like it. Now, the graphics are nice and clean, regardless of what resolution they're on. But I do have a few nitpicks, at least on PC. And that's that I couldn't set a resolution. Just whatever monitor I put it on, when I put it full screen, it tried to adjust to that screen, which was okay for the most part. I have two different size monitors. I have a 1340 by 1440, 3440 by 1440 ultra wide monitor, and I have a 2550 by 12 something monitor on my right. Now, I preferred it on my smaller monitor because when I put it on my ultra wide, it doesn't actually do full ultra wide. It will do that resolution, but it puts the bars on it for a normal sized monitor of that resolution. It doesn't do the ultra wide spread. So if you have an ultra wide as your main monitor, you may want to keep the game in, say, windowed mode and just stretch it out a little bit, because you can make it pretty big and make it look really clean and just see things behind your screen. It's really not that big of a deal. And if you've had an ultra wide monitor like I do for a while, then you're kind of used to that. It happens sometimes. It's not a big ding on it, but I like the ability to have committed display resolutions, if that's an option in the future. As far as other settings, you could set things from low to medium to high to ultra. I set everything to max, and I thought the game looked beautiful. Now, this isn't the most difficult game to render. It looks more like a comic book / cartoon art style, where the characters have those hard cel shaded kind of lines on them, and the backdrops kind of look like hand drawn, things like that. It makes the characters pop, and it makes you feel more like you're playing a comic book or a cartoon, which is really nice. I think it's a good art style, and I know some people don't like cel shaded art styles. I do. Now, there are certain stages where you can go back and you can play things in more of a 16-bit mode, and those look fun too. And any weapons you bring out of those still look like 16-bit inside this cel-shaded art style, which is kind of a really neat effect. It looks cool when you pull it off and you bring out a weapon from there. But overall, it's all done in this one art style. I've not seen any way just to flip it to a 16-bit mode. There are 16-bit stages that are optional extras that you have to find. And those are usually in arcade machines, and you use a taser and you zap them and then it pulls you into it. And generally, it's not much. It's like a boss fight or something from a previous Streets of Rage game. It's nothing big, but it's fun, and it's a nice Easter egg and throwback to kind of put in there. Now, some of the characters and their designs are really neat. They have these guys that they call Murphy. They have these shields and batons. You have to break those. They almost look like Alex Murphy from RoboCop before he became RoboCop. It's got this kind of padded armor and stuff like that. It looks like a riot control officer. It's a very cool look. And they have a lot of really good, nice, stylized enemies and really neat stylized bosses that are, one, fun to learn the mechanics, and two, fun to play. So, as far as just that style and the feel of it and just the gameplay, I feel like it all kind of worked. Also, when you start going into the storyboarding and stuff like that, the stills that they give you at the end of each chapter with the dialogue really does feel like it came out of a comic book. So from that aspect, it even pulls you more to that art style as you start seeing those parts at the end of each chapter. And speaking of that, the story on this is really kind of like an over-the-top comic book story anyway. I mean, you've got this evil, shadowy organization that's trying to take over the city, and you're just in the way. And since they didn't pay you off, they're just going to kill you, and they're going to use this mesmerizing music to make everybody in the city their slaves and just bow down to them so they can take over this city and then the world. And it's a brother-sister pair, Mr. Y and Miss Y, son and daughter of the guy from the Streets of Rage 3 game that have now taken over the syndicate, and they'll have their revenge and take over the world. And it's really just kind of over the top and ridiculous, which is, it's a lot of fun. It's a fun backdrop for it. And the nice thing is about each one of those parts at the end of the chapter, it really kind of gives you an idea of why you're going into the next set piece that you're going to. So it ties the stages together at the same time. So from that standpoint, it's a really good story in that respect. Is it anything revolutionary? No. Is it kind of tried? Yeah. Is it fun? Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I liked it a lot. I'm not gonna lie. So to kind of wrap up this whole thing, would I buy this? For me, it's a definite yes. The price point is $25 for the 3 hours I got into it, plus me being able to go back through and play as other characters and get achievements for them, and unlock new characters to go through the game with, the boss rush mode, the arcade mode, the multiple different difficulties to be able to increase the difficulty of the game as you want to. The ability to just jump in and be able to battle friends, or to be able to go through the game randomly at different times with other friends, makes it a good value for dollar for me. Now, if you're the kind of person that only puts in 2 to 3 hours in a game total, like when you beat it the first time, you have no interest in going through any extra stuff, you don't want to do boss attack, you don't want to try it on a harder difficulty mode, you don't care about playing Cherry or Floyd or Axel or whoever, then this is probably not the game for you. Because that's where you're going to get your money's worth out of it. You're not going to get it through the first playthrough. You're just not. There's not enough content there, even with 12 stages, to keep you busy for more than, say, 4 to 5 hours. And that's if you're doing abysmally bad on a couple of stages and really struggling. I'd say 5 hours is a lot of time on normal to go through this game. Easy will probably take you 2 hours or less. It's just not that hard. It's fun. It's a lot of fun, and it's nice and relaxing and cathartic just to have a drink, kick back, and boot this game up and just play through and have some nice beat 'em up fun. It's very nostalgic, particularly for my age group, to have this kind of game. And it really is a love letter to people who are fans of the series or fans of brawlers in general. So if you picked up and played brawlers in the past and you enjoyed them, then you're going to enjoy this one. If you found them boring and nonsensical and that they just didn't have enough there that you found fun, this one will not change your mind. Okay? This is a love letter to fans that enjoy those types of games, to make a very refined, fun version of this type of genre of game. It's not trying to do anything revolutionary. It's not trying to do anything crazy. It's just trying to bring you a very solid, well thought out love letter to fans. And that's it. That's what you get. And for my money, that's worth investing in, because I really enjoy these types of games from time to time. It's fun to boot one up and just play with it. It's even more fun to bring a friend along for the ride and to play through it again. Even if you've beaten it a dozen times, it's still fun, because you're sitting there and you're laughing and you're joking. You're going, oh, look what just happened here, and oh my god, what the hell just happened? And it's just a good time. So, would I buy it? Yeah, in a heartbeat, I'd buy it again. Do I think you should buy it? If you've ever played a brawler and enjoyed it, you owe it to yourself to pick this one up and play it. You're gonna have a good time with it. You're gonna find some replayability out of it. You're gonna be able to bring friends over and show it to them. You're gonna be able to have like your kid brother or kid sister or your uncle or aunt or whoever, and they can jump in and they can have fun too, because it's not hard to play. It's just an easy pick up and play kind of game. So from that standpoint, it is definitely worth every penny I spent on it. Hell, I'd probably buy it again on another platform if I had a buddy that wanted to play it there, because I just find it fun to play. But that's one man's opinion. You need to make your own opinion on whether or not it's worth your money. But until next time, I'm out.